Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Tempest Domain Cleric Build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. Now this is actually a very overpowered class, and I want to get into why. So, we're obviously going to go with the Cleric here. Now there's a bunch of different subclasses, and they all have their own unique benefits, but the Tempest gives us Thunderwave and Fog Cloud for free, which are both really great spells there. We also get the Wrath of the Storm as a reaction strike back at an attacking creature dealing 2 to 16 lightning or thunder damage, and the target takes half damage on a successful saving throw. And this is going to get even wilder as we're able to get pushback on those attacks as well. For our cantrips, Sacred Flame's kind of the classic damage dealing for a cleric. I also really like Guidance is great, especially if you're, for the face of the party as well. And Resistance is alright. Blade Ward can be a bit better. So we'll go with Blade Ward. And then for our ability score, so this is quite interesting because we can go a variety of different ways with this build, but we obviously want to have our wisdom up as high as possible. We can safely dump charisma because we're not going to multi-class with sorcerer, but I am working on a build guide for this with the sorcerer, storm domain alongside this. We want to have our constitution up as high as possible as well, so a nice 16 is also pretty great there. Dexterity and strength, this depends what type of weapons that we want to use. Typically we're going to go with more strength weapons, but yeah, we'll keep our dexterity around there just to have a nice initiative. And then I'll get into gear at the end of this video. Ideally we wouldn't have our wisdom at 17, we'd use like Hag's Hair to take that up to 18. And then also there's some items that we can get that's going to boost that even further. So it's going to look something like that. We could even go somewheres around that if we want to put our constitution up a little bit higher. And I'm going to get into why we want to have our constitution a little bit higher, but something around that looks good. So into the build guide here. So the Tempest Domain Cleric is actually quite strong at dealing a lot of damage. It's not so much a healer, more so damage dealer. So we get our divinity, channel divinity charges here, but destructive wrath. So when you roll thunder or lightning damage, you can use your channel divinity to deal maximum damage instead, which gets crazy, and I want to get into that. We also get turn undead, so you can pray to turn all undead that can see you. For our spells, curing wounds, or healing word is great. It's a bonus action, heal a creature you can see. This is great for picking up enemies that or your team that might be down. Guiding bolt's pretty good. Inflict wounds, decent damage dealing there. We want to have bless, so we're going to take off Shield of Faith, put on bless. I think that Sanctuary is another great one to take. Cure wounds is okay, but it uses an action, so we're going to take Sanctuary because that can really be a lifesaver. You or an ally cannot be targeted until you attack or harm a creature. This can literally save you many times, so we're going to go with that there. And then for our Cleric level 3, I'm going to get into why I left the stats the way that they were in just a moment once we get our feet at level 4. But for our level 2 spell slots, we're going to take off Cure Wounds. I think Spiritual Weapon is really great. It's a bonus action. It gives you another ally to take the heat off of you. So this is really powerful. Hold Person is also quite great. I like that one as well. And Aid's nice too because this is not a concentration, but it does increase health by 5 points, which is super powerful. But that's that for that level of Cleric. Now we're going to get our feat, which really starts to round out the build. For our cantrip, we could take Produce Flame if you want to have a little bit of extra fire damage, resistance, something like that. Doesn't matter a whole lot. For our next level, I think that Aid can be pretty good, just give you that extra health. Or Prayer of Healing can heal all allies you can see. So either one of those is great. You could take off maybe like Inflict Wounds because that's not really going to be our main damaging options. Something like that. For our feat, now there's lots of great ones for the Cleric. An ability improvement to take our wisdom up to 18 would likely be our #1 priority, but if you're finding that you're not surviving long enough, we're going to go with something like, we're going to take both the ability improvement score, but we're also, Warcaster can be a great one to have advantage on saving throws on concentration, but there's something even better here, and resilience in constitution is going to bump our constitution up to 18, but it also gives us proficiency in the saving throws, and we need to make a lot of constitution saving throws as a cleric, so this is honestly ideal. And then our next one, we're going to bump our wisdom up to 18 for our level 8 feat, but that is why I went with that way, is because we can bump our charisma, we bump our constitution up to 18 and go up to +4, but also gives us proficiency in those checks. That's super important later on. And then for our level 3 spell, this is the best spell, I would say, probably one of the best spells in the game, Spirit Guardians. So with this, we call for spirits to protect you. Nearby enemies take 3 to 24 radiant damage. You can upcast this to make it even more damaging. And You can also use necrotic damage. It reduces their movement speed. This is a great concentration, especially for dealing damage. You can get into the fray of things, pop your Spirit Guardians, and then you're blocking out a lot of damage. For the Tempest domain, it's not the most ideal, but we're going to get into that in a moment. So we can take off Aid and maybe put Mass Healing Words, a nice bonus action to heal all creatures. And yeah, Glyph of Warding can also be a really great option too. We can do electricity damage with that. Beacon of Hope, another decent concentration, but yeah, we're going to go with that. Revivify is another nice spell to have. There's lots of great cleric spells for the Tempest domain. As we get our subclass feature here, we get Thunderbolt Strike. When you deal lightning or thunder damage to a creature that's large or smaller, you can push it up to 3 meters. So that works on our reaction as well, giving us a lot of damage actually. And then for our next level spell, Beacon of Hope can be a decent spell. Your allies regain maximum health points when healed. They also gain advantage on saving throws. It's a concentration though, we don't really love that. Glyph of Warding for damage can be nice. So either Glyph of Warding or Revivify. Revive a companion, they return to life with 1 health point. But we're going to go with Glyph of Warding because we're damage dealing. Animate Dead can be decent as well, but I think Glyph of Warding with lightning or thunder damage can be the best way to go about this build. As we get into level 7, we get more of our spells. And here we get Freedom of Movement. Guardian of Faith, call forth the Divine Guardian that attacks nearby enemies. Every time it deals damage, the Guardian loses an equal amount of health points. Death Ward prevents a creature from death. And then we also get Banish alongside Ice Storm. What's nice about this, Ice Storm and then having a wizard do Fireball sets up water. And that's how we can do double damage to do the most amount of damage. We get Freedom of Movement twice there. Now for our spells, we get our level 4 spells, which are all right there. Now, I think that for purposes of this, it's probably best just to go with Revivify. So we're going to take that. And then, as we get into level 8, this is when we're going to bump our Wisdom up a little bit higher. It might be better to take a higher Wisdom earlier on, but as I said, Constitution or Wisdom, both are great choices. Get our level 4 spell slots, we get Divine Strike Thunder. So once per turn, deal 1 to 8 thunder damage in addition to your weapon's damage when you make a melee attack. So we're able to do melee damage and hit really hard. And that's really nice. So for our level 4 spell, your Guardian of Faith is not bad, so we'll take that. And then for our feat, ability improvement is the way to go here. And what we're going to do is bump Wisdom up to 18. That allows us to do a bit more damage with our attacks. And this is all about damage, so it's perfect. Now we get our level 5 spells, and this is where things get a little bit intense. Mass Cure Wounds, we're going to take that off, we're going to take that off. We're going to call down upon, I think that Flame Strike can be pretty good for fire and radiant damage. And then Mass Cure Wounds is not bad for healing. It's mass Healing Words, a bonus action. This is an action. It's better to do damage as a cleric, honestly. Like, the action economy is all about taking out enemies that so they won't hurt you and then you don't have to heal. That's kind of ideal, but understandable. Having spells for healing is nice. Divine Intervention, this is great. You can only use it one time, then never again. And then for our next cantrip, we can take something like Resistance. And then for spells, Greater Restoration is nice. Negates Charm, Petrification, or Stun. Planar Binding's pretty good. We can even go back and take some of the earlier ones, like Hold Person's never a bad spell just to have for crowd control. It does require concentration, and we'd rather use our concentrations on our electricity spells, which I'm going to get into after we get through the leveling. As we get into level 11, this is where we get our level 6 spell slots, so we can take these off. And then Blade Barrier is nice, creates Razor Blade difficult terrain that deals damage. Hero's Feast can be pretty great. You and everyone around can't be poisoned, diseased, or frightened. Your HP increases and you make wisdom saves with advantage. Lasts until long rest. This is quite great. Harm can reduce an enemy's maximum health points. Create Undead is pretty good. Heal is a good healing option, and also Planar Ally is not bad too. You can get a Cambion there. We're going to go with Hero's Feast, though, because that is really nice to increase our health points, give us wisdom saves, and all that comes with it. And then for our final level of Cleric Tempest Domain, this is when we get our final feat. For spells, you could take something like that, and then maybe Heal's not a bad thing to have, because it's a 70 healing, really nice, just in case you need an emergency heal. And then we're going to take our ability improvement and bump our wisdom up. You can also go with something like Mage Initiate and take different spells if you want to round out differently, but I think that bumping our wisdom up is kind of the best. And as I mentioned earlier, Warcaster is also a really great option. You get Shocking Grasp, which can knock people out of range because that's electricity damage, and we have all the bonuses to that. But we're going to go with Increased Wisdom because there's lots of benefit to that. So then, as we get into the gear and how you're going to play this, Call Lightning is kind of your main concentration damage, so you can do this with max damage. I would recommend creating water, and that can be done with Sleet Storm or Ice Storm, using these attacks and then following up with fire. Like, you do have the Pillar of Fire there, so you can, what you could ideally do is Ice Storm, blast them, you could call down the fire, and then on top of that we're going to start doing our electricity damage. Or if you got a sorcerer, wizard, or any of those casting classes, bard, warlock, you can also use them to set up water. But our ideal go about is to call down water, get everything in that area wet, and then we're going to start blasting with Call Lightning. You can also, it's recommended to take sorcerer or wizard as well, as you can use the crown that gives you 17 intelligence and then use that for wizard spells, and that does take up their headgear. But I'm using the Lifebringer. When the wearer gains lightning charges, they also gain 3 temporary health points. So this works alongside our Water Sparkers, which the wearer stands in water in combat, it becomes electrified. And then if they stand on an electric surface, they gain 3 lightning charges, which is going to fuel our healing. The Vivacious Cloak gains 8 temporary health points after casting a spell while in melee. So that's pretty useful. We're going to be doing that a lot as we're kind of like a melee caster. For our armor, we can go with something like heavy armor. That could be ideal. I just like the Shar armor there because it looks better. We can use heavy armor, but as you can see there, our armor class stays roughly the same. So even medium armor is pretty decent to take. We're just, with this armor here, we're going to reduce the damage that we take. Whereas this gives us some stealth benefits, which is quite nice. For our gloves, we're going to use this here, the Gloves of Belligerent Skies. There are other items that will stack with lightning and thunder damage, but this will give us 2 terms of reverberation upon the target, which can reduce their chances of dexterity saving throws. And you can knock them prone with thunder damage, so this actually can build up a lot of synergy between uses. We also have the Blast Pendant, which gives us Lightning Blast, which forces the electricity in your veins to strengthen your next lightning spell when we get lightning charges. So everything here all comes together. We have Killer Sweetheart, so when we do our divinity charge on our thunder attacks, we can also make it a critical hit and take out pretty much everything with Call Lightning. And then for our ring, we got the ring that's going to give us a little bit extra healing, but there are some better rings out there. That's just what I went with there. So this build can be incredibly powerful when you're using all the lightning stacks that you can build up. You have a big pushback on all your damage, which is huge as well. And overall, this build can do some crazy amounts of damage. I'm going to be working on a Tempest Cleric mixed with Storm Sorcerer build guide, so I'm still testing that one out, but I'll let you guys know when that comes out. But there it is. That's a pretty OP Tempest Cleric build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please hit the subscribe button below. Appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.